had my issues throughout life. So we have this quote that I repeat every single day. Episode. My last question is, if you put a billboard anywhere in New York City, what would it say?
Setting up the
yo muero por un besito de esos que tú me das justo antes que te fueras.
focusing on his breath work and we'll go from there.
What's up, Lug Life family? Zach here. I'm here with Matt Riccio, a good friend of mine that I've known now for almost 20 years. Episode 14 of the Lug Life podcast. Riccio and I know each other. I was just telling Roger before. When I was a senior in high school and I played lacrosse, our man Matt Riccio made the varsity lacrosse team as a freshman. And we ended up winning a championship our senior year. And he went on to go play college ball at CW Post. Yep. But why don't you just tell the audience who you are, what you do?
Sure. Well, dude, thank you so much for having me on here. Big fan of what you do. I get a bunch of inspiration from your company, so kudos to you. What I do, like small business, just like you, we wear a bunch of hats, but yeah, I do a bunch of things. My main probably business is the hair industry. Fortunate enough to have two schools that what we do is, we teach hair cutting, coloring, barbering, but like I was explaining to Zach before, I'm really in the people growing business, and that's what it's about, trying to mentor young kids to be as successful as possible and put them in a position where they have the right tools once they leave our academy to do so. So, that's it. And how we met, lacrosse was definitely played a big role in my life.
Shout out to Trumbull, Connecticut.
Trumbull, Connecticut. I think when I was on the team, I was just saying, I was probably 100 pounds soaking wet. I was 100 pounds soaking wet until I graduated high school. But I was telling Zach, I think that's a big part of, what kind of made me dealing with obstacles, not being the biggest kid or the strongest kid, and trying to find ways to, stand out and not making excuses for myself, and trying to, adapt to, okay, well, these guys are twice as big as me. What can I do that they can't do? And I think that's a bunch of what happens a lot in when you have a business. It really doesn't operate in black or white. It operates in gray, and you have to be able to shift and pivot. And pure example, during the pandemic, we were shut down for 3 months, our industry. So we could have packed it up, but shout out to my father, and he's a huge mentor, and we'll get into that before, but we pivoted and we were able to give the students what we felt was the best education that we possibly could at the time of being shut down. You look at a situation where our industry is really, you have to go through the motion of it. So we were online, doing online Zooms. I was doing demos. Shout out to my entire team, educational team, Newtown and Guilford, for just stepping up in a time where, we were all just going through it for the first time, and we made it out better on the other end.
It's amazing. And, looking back, when I was a senior and you were a freshman, I was thinking, look at this motherfucker. He's a freshman, he made the varsity lacrosse team, but now hearing your perspective of, that wasn't good enough for you. What was important to you was to figure out how to take your weaknesses and play on it. And that's probably why you made it as a freshman, because you had to be so dialed in on your skills and your stick work and making sure every pass that happened was perfect. You know, if you were a foot shorter than everyone at that age, think about how much harder it is to really perfectly pass the ball. And I think, you know, that makes a lot of sense who you are as an entrepreneur now, because I think everyone that follows Riccio online can see he's got this chip on his shoulder, and that motivation that you bring on day in and day out is really who you are as a person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a chip on my shoulder, I mean, in the sense of, I mean, I was so blessed to grow up in a great household, you know, having a great mom, dad. You know, I think the best part about what they did was, you know, not make excuses for me. You know, there's a bunch of, you know, not a bunch, but there's certainly the people that they go home to their parents and, you know, they call the coach or they call this, and you know, that wasn't kind of an option. And I think that is why I was able to kind of just say, all right, what else can I do? And it was all, you know, trial and error. It's like, you want to go out, you want to do the best that you possibly can, but if you're still not getting playing time, instead of going back on the bench and being like, oh man, or just in life, like, you know, failure is part of it. I mean, there's that quote that's been going around the internet, like, if you didn't fail, you didn't even try. Yeah. So, you know, I would definitely fell victim to that in my life, and meaning, like, you know, you try to do all these things, and you have this highlight reel in your head, but you're so afraid of what other people think that you don't take the action. And, you know, once I actually started feeling confident in myself and saying, like, no, this is the wave I want to go in, things started happening, because I wasn't worried about what other people were thinking. You know, I run my business from the perspective of, you know, like, not the students that come in, not all of them are the best learners. And yeah. I'll tell you that, you know, me in school, it didn't work out. I was an awful student, but I think because I had that experience, now I'm able to run and challenge my team, which they, you know, crush every day. Like, we're only as good as the kid that's struggling the most. Can we teach him? Can we make him successful? Because you're going to have the kids that come that, you know, this is what they were born to do. And, but a lot of them, you know, like 50, 40%, whatever it may be, you know, they're just looking for a career. And everyone's definition of success is different. And I think that that's a real big part of understanding just life in general, is that, you know, my goal and your goal, they could be completely different. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, everyone's happiness is, you know, reaching their goals, and they can be different. Like, for one of my students that maybe comes in and has total different, like, learning disabilities and all that stuff, and, you know, you're just able to work with him and get him a career where maybe he's gonna make, you know, 6 figures at some point in time. But those are the kids that, for me, when they come back to the academy, that's the most impactful thing, because it's like, you know, you have the kids that come in, they're super talented, you know they're going to crush it. But the ones that every single day you're picking them up, how's it going? I had a rough day, no worries. You know, I lead in humility. You know, I always tell them about my experiences. Like, listen, man, like, I failed at a million things. Like, you know, this is just the next step. And if you just take action, come every single day, get 1% better. When you leave, I guarantee you I'm going to find you a job, and then you're going to take it from there.
Yeah, some of you are sitting at home on the bench right now making excuses. And, you know, either it's because of something that happened to you, sure, or the financial struggle that you're going through, and take it from here, right? Listen to a guy who takes his struggles and turns it into opportunities. Yeah,
I mean, like you said, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, and you know, that's why, like, for my academies, like, traditionally you go to hair school and you learn how to do cut and color, and barbering and whatever, and you go on. You know, a lot of academies, what I'm constantly striving for is just to make sure that my kids have the best opportunity. I care about what they're going to do in cutting and coloring. We know they're going to be successful if they go through the program. We know they're going to get it on a technical side. But like, that's 50% of it. Like,
If that,
exactly. Like, can you give a good experience to a client? Also, can, like, you know, we pivoted like this year. Shout out to Matt Management Group, you know, a buddy of mine who came through my program, started a financial literacy group.
I saw that. It's amazing.
You know, and I think that's a subject that is probably least talked about, least taught, and the most important thing, like, in the world. Like, when you get out of college, do you know what to do? Do you know where to invest? And I fell victim to it at an entrepreneurial family. Like, so, you know,
I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, me being around people that have businesses, and I can only imagine if someone has no exposure to that, what they're feeling like. So for me, that was a project, and is continuously a project that's going to continue to get better at our academies. But it's going to be a huge focal point. And I want to make sure that when the kids leave, they know what they need to invest in, even just savings or whatever it may be. Like, you know, it just, if you know 1% more, and I always say that, like, that's our slogan, like 1% better each day. But if you leave knowing a little bit more about that, when you're making the financials that you want to, when you're bringing in the income that you want to, you know what to do with the money. So, and I think that's huge.
I think that's huge too. I don't think people talk about personal finance enough. You know, they might see you and I, fancy cars, you know, getting whatever we want. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this didn't happen by chance, right? It's not like we got a fancy car when we were broke.
No.
You know, and I think a lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, I know a lot of people that they bring in $1 million, but they spend $1.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was very fortunate to be around people that, on the, you know, financial literacy side, have always been. I was always that person that was just in the corner, like, I don't know what they're talking about. I know I got to work hard, and I know, but, you know, I always tell the students, and just in life, like, the people that ask the questions and don't care about the outcome of what other people are going to think about you asking the question, you are going to gain so much knowledge. Oh, yeah. You know, so for me, you know, in the past 7-8 years, you know, I started asking the questions, like, no, I don't know what that means. Can you explain to me? Yeah. And not caring about it. So what the outcome was, or what other people think. And I think just as that's like human nature, you know, if you're not comfortable with something, you either say you hate it, or it doesn't make, you know, it's a waste of time. But those are all excuses that you're making to, like, so that you don't have to face the fact of, like, okay, on the other side of me asking this question might be like the biggest personal growth that could ever happen. So, you know, and a lot of that has come true for me in the past, probably, you know, 18 months. Like really, like, that's really what's been like a huge, I've seen so much growth just because I haven't been afraid to ask the question or put myself in,
feel vulnerable
and be, and constantly try to live in the state of uncomfortableness. Like I constantly want to be uncomfortable. Like, if I haven't, you know, experienced something, and you wake up in the morning and you get those butterflies, go towards whatever that is. And then once you do that, it's like, okay, what else can I do?
I love that. Yeah. I think most people, they just tend to lean towards what feels the most comfortable. Sure. And I would agree with you 100%. Whatever keeps me up at night, gives me the most anxiety, that's usually what I try to start off with now. Because I know if I can accomplish that, just like we're about to do an ice bath, you can do an ice bath, you can do fucking anything.
Without a doubt. And, you know, honestly, I didn't get into the ice baths until about 19 months ago. You know, my brother, shout out Big Bro Dan, a mentor of mine, you know, he was a guy that was on that wave and then introduced me to the Wim Hof. And
Shout out to Wim Hof.
Shout out to Wim Hof. I mean, you can look into that page and be like, this guy is complete lunatic. Like,
Which he is. Yeah.
And you could say, like, this doesn't make any sense, but, like, honestly, and we were talking about this before, like, that stuff's good for you physically. Like, working out is good for you physically. It's nice to look good, but honestly, at the end of the day, like, I do it for mental purposes. Like, if regardless on how you look or whatever it may be, like, how you feel, if you don't feel right, regardless on anything, it's like, well, what's the point? And, the ice bath has been a huge part of, I don't do it every single day, but the days that I'm feeling stressed out and I'm like, I don't know what to do, my head's in a million places, exactly like you said, you get through doing really, really hard shit and you're like, all right, well, what else is there? And you like to start the day like that. I mean, I like to start my day with doing something that sucks, because the rest of the day is just like, all right, let's go. We can keep going and build on this.
So it sounds like a lot of your identity is this mentorship. You give a lot of credit to your family.
For sure.
And I think that part is so huge, right? Because a lot of times you hear entrepreneurs and they'll shout out their team, right? Of course, I'm always shouting out my Junk Luggers remix team, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's the people that helped shape you, who you are, that really are defining who Riccio is, right? So why don't you just talk about how huge mentorship has been for you and having the right examples to work through what you've been going through your life?
Yeah. Mentorship is huge, and at the time when you're young, you don't even look as a mentorship. You're just like going through life, and you're just myself. Like, I was very fortunate to have these people around that have shaped me into who I am. Obviously my mom, my dad, huge role. My father was a guy who got up at 6 a.m, didn't come home from work until sometimes 7:30 at night. Always made it home for dinner, always. But complete grinder and just like a visionary guy who just kind of just talk about I'm third generation. So he took what my grandfather had and built a salon and just put his 2 cents on it and made it what it was. And a guy that just always looks at the glass half full. And I think that, like, even you look back at it and you're like, Jesus, man, like,
working 7 days a week, working 12-hour days,
yeah, just
still figured out.
And really work-life balance, always made time for his family. So, like, for myself, that has been like something that I've watched. Obviously my mom holding it down at the house, like making sure my brother and I we're always getting into some shit, but fighting with each other but always making sure that the family unit she was the glue. And I, like, my entire family, like my cousin's a huge mentor of mine. Just a guy that is also just so creative in the way he runs his business. Shout out to Restore and Stumpers, another huge mentor of mine. And just all these people play such a huge part. It's like it does take a village, man. And at the end of the day, I give so much credit to the people that don't have that, and they come out of it the other end, and it's just, their story is so inspiring. But for me, I've been fortunate enough to, take what my father, I've been to work with my dad pretty much every single day for 12 years, see how he runs it. And I think with time, you got to put your flavor on it, and
that's what's happening now.
And that's what's happening now. He's constantly in there still every day, and he's still my boss 100%. And everything goes through him. But now, through how we've grown, he listens to my ideas a lot. And a lot of the time we're collaborating, where in the beginning you just got to learn, like, small business, you learn every aspect of the business. I was a receptionist. I stocked shelves. I taught. And now, has led me to where I'm at now is just, I wish I could teach more. But, when it's the business side of it has constantly bringing in new students. That's, I'm in charge of new business, bringing in new students every single month. But what we did do is, we invested so much time in our educators to put them in a position where they're giving the experience of the student with their flavor on it, because you never want to, knock anybody's creative kind of feel for it. But, I feel great about the experience that the instructors are giving my students, which allows me, shout out to them, free myself up to grow the business more and more. And so that's where I'm at. All my mentors at the end of the day, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know about yourself, but I find inspiration in a lot of people. Mentorship has been, a tight circle, but, inspiration can come from anyone. Yep. I got 18-year-old students that, come in and they're super creative, and, I don't think a lot of people, maybe might tell them, like, hey, like, you're like crazy talented. Like, you can go, trust me, like,
you're gonna be something.
You're going to be something. You just got to take the first step of action. So that's on the mentorship side of it. I've been very fortunate. What about you? I don't mean to turn this around,
no,
but
it's okay.
I mean, what you've done with your business and everything like that, it has been just absolutely mind-blowing. And like I was explaining to you before, man, like, we haven't really talked in a long time. We always stayed, friends via social media, but from an outsider looking in, what you've done, it's super inspiring. And super, like, when you reached out to me to be on your podcast, I was like, it's a big honor, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think mentorship for me is like huge. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for so many people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. A lot of this inspiration of the podcast has come from Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep.
And,
shout out Gary.
Shout out Gary V. And hiring Roger to be my D-Rock.
Shout out Roger.
Was always so huge to me, because for me, I didn't want to feel like a phony, right? So when I sit here today and I talk about what I accomplished, it was important for me to get those stripes on my belt before I even decided to open myself up. I'm pretty comfortable with my success now. If you talked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I had no clue if it was going to work. And I think a lot of what I see in you, right, is you're differentiating yourself. You're creating this niche in an industry that's been around forever.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of people with junk luggers, they might think, oh, we're removing items. But really, we talked about it earlier, and for anyone that knows me long enough, it's never been about the removal. It's all about the relationships, very similar to what you're talking about, and taking these items and giving it a second home. And I think, to turn it back on you, it's like, I would love to hear, what does the future bring for all of your niches? Like, what is your vision? What is it going to look like?
So, it's a great question, man. I think every day adapting and trying to figure out, what we can continue. I mean, the sky's the limit, and I think that's like the biggest thing. There's like, possibility is endless, and it's kind of just a mindset that you are open to, because our industry is constantly evolving. But what, for me, that will always stay constant is really, really caring about my kids' experience. Like, making sure that I'm doing everything on my end, even though I'm not out there teaching 5 days a week anymore. Am I bringing in the proper educators? Am I bringing in the people that can relate to my students? What else am I offering besides the hair portion of it? Like, this year we brought in the financial portion of it. And honestly, I think that's just going to continue to go, and, anything that I can help these kids. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the hair portion of it, because I think, we have to constantly evolve our curriculum to keep it the most current with the newest trends. But what else can I bring to these kids to make them successful besides the hair portion of it? Like, this financial thing kind of just opened up my eyes. Okay, what else are kids struggling with? Yeah. Like, what else can it be? And, honestly, for myself, it's a great feeling there's probably, 2 or 3 kids that have gone on through our program, opened up a successful shop or successful barbers that, they consider me a mentor. And I've found so much joy in that because of the fact that, I always tell my students and just learn from my experience. You can't put a price on experience. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, learn from either my mistakes or, and you have to be a certain type of person to want the best for that individual, that you actually teach them the game opposed to holding it back. Because I think that some people see others as competition. I could run the school and graduate and hold things back to be maybe one day they're going to take my recipe and open up a school. Well, that's great for them.
And it's great for you. And it's going to push you to become more creative.
100%. And I just think that at the end of the day, man, if you want good things for people and you lead with good, positive intent, and that's kind of where you're coming from, I just think the outcome of yourself, them, it's kind of inevitable. They're gonna crush it. You're gonna grow from it. You're gonna feel good. It's kind of just like a full circle. It just in my experience.
100%. And I think, part of being an entrepreneur is the people that try to make it a secret, like a secret sauce, probably don't really have that good of a formula to add value. When you're talking about a 10-digit sales a year, 11-digit, hundreds of millions of dollars companies, the secret is your team.
Without
the secret is creating an environment where it's not just a couple people growing. Everyone has that opportunity to make a lot of money.
That's so dead on. Even in my industry, just I think, what keeps me going every single day is just, there was this quote that actually my brother told me, and it I don't know what I was doing. I was it was 10 years, maybe 8 years ago. And my brother does something completely different. He's in commercial real estate development and residential real estate development. And so he didn't choose to go into the family business. But he's told me this quote, first generation is the pioneer, second generation grows the business, and third generation historically has killed the business. And for me, every single day, that's the chip that I get up with. That's the chip that I basically, at the end of the day, I'm well, what am I doing to make sure that this ship is still going in the right direction? Because I'm not going to be the one. There's no way. And that's for me, honestly, that quote has stayed with me all the time. Wow. Every single day when I'm if I'm feeling sorry for myself or, whatever it may be, am I not everybody has the days. I tell the students, we operate 80-20. Yep. 80% of the time, if you're on point, positive attitude, good things are going to happen to you. 20%, everybody has a day or two. I get it. But what am I doing every single day to make sure that this ship is going to continue on long, maybe, hopefully after I'm dead, if my son wants to get into it, whatever it may be. I just know that I'm not going to be the one. So, and to crush it or whatever it may be. And actually, I want to grow it like my father did from his father. I want to grow it just maybe more if possible. Whatever it has in store for me, I'm looking to grow the business. Certainly not keep it stagnant, but on a steady incline. Massive incline would be nice, but things don't happen overnight. It's a steady grind.
Absolutely, and I think you're doing it already. And I'm sure your dad is very impressed, because I know everyone that's watching this, everyone that follows you on Instagram is impressed, right? And I know it's not just this perception. It's not like you're a magician and you're convincing us. The reason that you are successful is because you're putting in the hard work, right? And a lot of what you're doing now, we were just talking about, is in addition to running 2 academies, Now you're starting Rise of Hair. So why don't you just talk about what this is and what it means to you?
Yeah, well, Rise of Hair was actually created. I'm the co-founder. My business partner is Bird Mena, at Bird Mena. You can check him out on Instagram. He's the creative director for the clipper company Wall. And he is a creative genius. I had the background in education. I grew up being around good education for cosmetology, which is the female side of it, cotton coloring. My father would bring me to London. That's where we would go and see all the amazing, talented artists. And before we were with TG and Toni and Guy, like, he would literally go over there, sit in the classes, write down the curriculum, and that's what he would bring back to. And so that's what separated him back then. But yeah, like, Rise of Hair has been, I think, 3 years now. We had a year of the pandemic. We had 2 shows in 2019. We were fortunate enough to sell it out. The male barbering shows were more of a different type of environment. No bad blood or anything like that. I'm not saying anything about it. I just wanted to do it a bit different, more high class, more, having to really be about the education side of it, not the flashy side of it. Right. So for us, that's how we kind of made ourselves different in the educational show space. So, flying out to Colorado tomorrow to collaborate with an already successful show in Denver, Colorado, and we're going to go out there. We're going to speak a little bit. My business partner Bird's going to be hosting it. I'm going to talk a little bit about business and anything that I can do to help. And that's like a slogan of mine. Like, honestly, when all these kids leave, at the end of the day, the last thing I say to them, if there's anything that I could ever do to help you, please reach out. And that's kind of how our show, the vibe of it. Like, it's not competition from artist to artist. It's not about that. It's about, like, we've brought in the networking side of it, and we're fortunate to have like a cult following. It's an exclusive event. It's not 1,000 people, and our direction with that is, our ticket price is probably a bit higher than normal, but you're going to have a good experience, and the connects that you're going to meet while you're there are going to be people that we hope you form relationships with for the longevity of your career, because obviously numbers are strength, right? I mean, like, if you're dealing with something in Connecticut, maybe my boy out in California is dealing with the same thing, or maybe he already went through it. What's a phone call? What's a text? You learn through other people's experiences. And, that's really what our show's about. This year is going to be different from all of them. We have a fashion portion of it. We've partnered up with a bunch of clothing brands that will be kind of dressing our models that the artist cut. And for us, fashion and hair is kind of, it goes together, So that's going to be October 8th and 9th in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you're around there, please stop in. It's going to be a sick event. It's 300 people. Tickets are actually moving pretty fast, which we're, shout out to all the,
awesome.
Yeah, shout out to all the attendees. That it's, it says a lot about our show just because it's a lot of the same people that go. So every year we're trying to continue to create value, not being satisfied. Where can we make it better? And so this year will be something different, and in this fact of, we're offering something that hasn't really been done on the male side of it, but this year we also are introducing the cosmetology end of it. So we do have colorists and cutters that are coming on the female side of it. So we're looking to morph it into just it started off as just a barbering men's hairdressing show, but we said, why just that? Let's continue to keep going.
I love that you're making it into almost like a fraternity with all these guys, right?
Yeah.
That you're creating this tight-knit community. And I would agree 100%. Like, if it's happening in Connecticut, it's happening in California. And, like, why make the same mistake over and over again? Why not be like, yo, I just want to let you know, like, this is what happened to me. This is how I resolved it. It cost me thousands of dollars. You can, learn from my mistake and not make the same mistake over
100%,
again.
yeah.
So I think, obviously a family has played a huge part of who you are. I know from Rodney, you are an amazing father to your son.
Thank you.
And I think from me, I was just telling you how I'm a new dad and how that's played a huge part in who I am as an entrepreneur. And I went from grinding like crazy to now doing very similar to what your dad was talking about, just trying to be more focused and do quality work, and then also take that grinding moments and do it also with my family, right? So, like, how has being a father played a role in who you are?
Well, my son is going to be 4 in September, and I think you said your daughter's about 1.5. Is that right? Probably in the past, probably from when he was born to around 1.5, I was like, go, 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 go. Yeah. And then, like, a switch happens, and you're like, man, like, he's only, this is going so fast, but, like, you want to make sure that you're around because they're only going to be that age for so long. Yeah. It's definitely ignited, like, more of a fire underneath, like, what I got going on, just because, for myself, I want to be an example like my father was. Yeah. So every single time I'm around him, it's always a teaching moment. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, being a dad is like, entrepreneurship, business, all that, but, like, being a father is like the number one job. You're responsible for molding these humans. Yeah. And for me, it's been like just an amazing journey just to, like, watch him grow, and all his, like, some of his mannerisms, like, are the same as mine, and you're like, holy shit, like, where did you see that? And that's like the aha moment. It's like, oh man, like, he's just watching me all the time. So it's like, you want to make sure that when you're around, like, you're super present. And for me, like, I have totally fallen victim in the past to not being.
Of course. And look at your phone, you're looking at Instagram, you're looking at emails.
And it's like, it's so crazy because you got to just be like, when you catch yourself being like, dude, like, you're here now. Like, leave the business, leave the phone. Yeah. For myself, my business comes in through my personal email, my business email. So, like, I get a lead for a new student, and it's like I want to make a play on that. But when I'm with him, I try to say, listen, let that settle. And we're all human, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, am I doing the right thing 100% of the time? Am I being 100% present with him every single time I'm with him? No. But I try to make the efforts when I notice, and that's more scaled to, like, being present a lot more than I have been in the future. Probably these past 19 months or so, I've really made that a point to make sure that when my son's around, I'm constantly doing something fun with him. I'm constantly, me and him, we rock together all the time. Like, like, before I would be like, I can't bring my kid. I just bring him. Like, he's going everywhere with me. When I have him and I'm rocking around with him, we're doing everything. And it's like, it's great for him too, because it exposes him to something that maybe, like, you think that, oh, maybe, he's too young to be, at your show. And it's like, why? What's the difference?
And that's what he's going to remember.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, he's not going to know why he remembers when he's 4 years old watching his dad and being so proud of him. But I couldn't agree more. Just like in life now, being present. We talked about it earlier, but just like how important that is. Life is so short. Life is so short. And being able to just be focused. Like, nowadays, technology is trying to suck you away from being present.
Without a doubt.
And like sometimes I'm like sitting on the couch, I'm like, I didn't watch 30 minutes of that show because I've just been fucking around on my phone, and like I don't even know what I've even done. I'm like on a YouTube video, just like, but like being able to put that phone away and being able to build these relationships with your son, with my daughter, that's what we're going to remember at the end of our lives.
100%. I mean, you're constantly doing a balance because you want to grind for them and you want to provide for them and you want to make sure they have the best possible life. And on the other end of that is the business aspect of it. But at the end of the day, it's like you gotta kind of make that decision when you're with them to be like 100% with them and just like enjoy them. And not only your, like my son, it's
I was
like,
going to say that.
yeah, I mean, it's like when
your
you're
coworkers,
everything, you know what I mean? When you're around and it's like my industry is so social media driven. So definitely become victim to it. Like, you know, my staff, I'm always on, my team to make sure that we're posting stories throughout the day. And it's like, we got to do all that stuff on the marketing aspect of it. But, at the end of the day, it's like, sometimes it's nice to just kind of just like be present and, all this work that we've put in, enjoy it for a second. And I think that's also something that I've learned, I was constantly looking for the next, like what's next? And I think that happens to do with entrepreneurship, that you're never able to kind of stop for a second and be
satisfied.
Stop for a second and be like, look what we're rocking. Like this place is rocking and rolling, because you're on to the next thing. And I think that it's not great to do that all the time, but I think it's nice to do that. And I always try to make sure that I tell my team, like, thank you, like, because it doesn't happen without them. Like, and I'm just one person, but if it wasn't for them being able to give such a great experience to my students, I wouldn't be able to grow the business and handle the emails and calls and do all the things on the back end. So we're in it together, and it doesn't happen without them. So, they're amazing individuals, and, they care about the kids too. And it's like you guys do at Junk Luggers. I mean, you can clearly see it. It's like you've created a culture. It's not just work. Like, it's work, but you got to have a good work environment, man, because
100%.
In some cases, your workers and my educational team, they're with you more than they're with their family. So it's like if you're not like giving them a place where they're enjoying, it's like you're going to go through so much turnover. And I am very fortunate to learn from my father, like, the newest person, obviously Guilford started 3 years ago, so we have newer people up there, but our newest person in the Newtown campus is like been with us for 5 years.
And that's how you know you have a great environment.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about that, right, that's really how you build an empire. Like, for people that are watching this right now and they're like, man, I can't relate to this. I only have one other person, or it's only me. You start this right now. You put your phone down, fucking down, and talk to someone and build a relationship and sell them on the vision, and that they're not going to make, $100,000 right now, but if they trust you, a couple years from now, they're going to be making more than they did than before. And it's going to be hard work, and they're going to have to do what you did. They're going to have to be the receptionist and stocking the shelves, but eventually one day you want them to run the day-to-day for you. And maybe you want them to open up their own location, right? And sell them on that vision. That's how you build a $1 billion business.
Without a doubt, and it's like, I'm looking to be able to like see these people as, family, like, that's kind of the relationship that you want to have with them. They got your back, you got their back, everyone through times of adversity, because life's crazy, you want to be able to say, hey man, I got you. What do you need? You need a couple days off? Like, I'm a big believer in, like, I'm not a drill sergeant, and my father wasn't either. You have to have compassion for people, and you have to be able to, when people are having a hard go, pull them aside. Don't act like it's not happening. Pull them aside, ask them, hey, what's going on? You happy? Like, everything, I see that you're kind of off. Can I help you with anything? And just that, and we do that on the school aspect too with students, because, I mean, man, I think growing up right now, just with the social media, the pressure, what other people like are doing, like I think that whole, like that for me at least in my industry, like they're looking at other people's work, they're looking at, you know, students that are in their same class and they get more likes than me and this, that, the other. And I always try to tell them, everybody learns at their same pace, at their own pace. And it's like, you got to just kind of be able to just put the blinders on, worry about yourself, because everybody's going to reach the goal at some point, and you can't judge yourself on how you're going to process something. Because I know for myself in past experience, dude, I don't learn things like on the first time. It takes 10 for me. And that's why I tell these kids, like, I always am like, listen, I was the worst learner. The cosmetology test took me 3 times to pass the cosmetology test. So it's like, you can't, like, I've been there in the aspect of like learning. So listen to me, man, you're going to be all right. Just stay consistent, come show effort every single day. And at the end of the day, we're going to get you to where you want to be, not where I want you to be, where you want to be. And I think, and that goes back to, like, you know, everybody has their own definition of success.
Yeah, and I think, you know, ultimately, if it's not obvious by this point, what I'm hearing is Matt's trying to build a legacy. He's trying to make sure that, you know, I always hear you die twice, right? The first one is when you actually die. The second one is the last time someone says your name. And when I think about what I'm hearing from you, you're really discussing the fundamentals of what it means to be a successful entrepreneur. And I know that recently you've really got into this personal brand, right? Which is huge. You know, I don't think that people are talking about it enough. And I know that, like, I recently went and spoke to UConn, the entrepreneurship program. They finally started one at UConn, which is amazing.
That's great.
There's really not that many entrepreneurs that are coming out of UConn. And I feel like a lot has to do with the fact that they're just not making it, they're not making it a class. And entrepreneurs need, just like you're doing it for your academy, people need to be educated. They need to be challenged. And I think what I heard is people are afraid to create this personal image because they're afraid, what if I'm not interesting? What if I don't get those likes? So, like, if you don't mind just discussing, like, why are you going all in on you as a personal brand, in addition to doing Toni and Guy, Newtown Academy, Rise of Hair? There's so many things going on. Why are you focusing now on, I know it's Instagram, but, you know, if the future brings whatever the fuck they call it, I know you'll go all in on it.
Yeah. So, why I built a personal brand. I built a personal brand in Matty Ricks, and, you know, the MR logo. You might see it on some of my videos, but, like, just to kind of, I'm not saying that my way is the way. I just know that at the end of the day, I've struggled with feeling not comfortable in my skin, and all these things that I have done, whether it be, you know, working out really early in the morning because it sucks, getting in that ice bath because it sucks. All these things have helped me evolve into the person that I am today. And I think that if I can show one person, if somebody gets inspired by one thing that I do and they take action, that helps them start their own personal brand. For me, that's all it takes. Like, I'm just doing it. I'm doing it because of the, you know, obviously I want people to remember and relate with my business. Okay, this is Matt Riccio. He is involved with the hair portion of it. But, you know, for me, you know, Matty Ricks could be a brand that I can co with anything in the future. You know, I dabble in with, you know, I hope to continue to do, you know, acquire real estate and focus on luxury rentals. Like, that's a vision of mine that I haven't told anyone, but I just did on this.
You put it out in the world.
That, you know, like for me, that's that's why I started the personal brand. I started the personal brand to, if anyone can get inspired by it, and it honestly, you know, it keeps myself accountable too.
Yeah.
You know, like at the end of the day, because, you know, once I started making these and really going in on the social media portion of it and just of what my daily routines are, I've had people reach out and say thanks. Like, and I'm not like saying, like, it hasn't been a lot of people, 2-3 people, like, and those happen to be the kids that I'm mentoring. They call me when they have an issue. How should they deal with this? Like, and for me, it's like, that's all I needed. I don't need anything else. Like, at the end of the day, if we can, I think us as humans, at the end of the day, it's like, how many people's lives have you impacted positively? Not how much money do you die with, how much have you, like, that's important. But like, I mean, if you can help grow anybody, like, how many people can you do that for and put them in a different mindset that totally like geared their life to a different direction in a positive way? I mean, that's more important than any money that you could have made or they made themselves. Like, just to be happy, I think it starts with, most successful people have routines, and the routines can be crazy. And part of these routines of very, very successful people, I know you know, is doing stuff and working out in the morning when nobody wants to get up at 4 a.m. and work
sleeping.
out. Nobody wants to do that. I don't like to do that. But I
love sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, it's gravitating towards doing shit that you don't want to do. So on the other end of it, you're like, okay, what else can I accomplish? Like getting in an ice bath, like we said before, and I guess we're jumping in one today, which is sweet. But doing that, and you said it, it's like it's the same thing, and that's why it was. I haven't seen you in 12 years, but we're picking up just right we left off, because it's crazy. Like, we both had different paths, but here we are doing the same routines: sauna, ice bath, working out, all these things,
meditating,
all
relationships,
all that stuff. It has played such a big part in getting between my ears straight, that at the end of the day, like, you do it because, you want to get a sweat in and you want to do that stuff, but like the mental
toughness,
all that, and like what you get from it, how you feel after it is like unbelievable. And like when I first started doing the ice baths, I was like, I literally can go for like 30 seconds. I was like, dude, this is insane. And I was like with my brother, and I was going through a crazy time. I was like, not great mentally. And I was like, dude, like, if I can just put my hands above this. Yep. And he's like, no, you put your hands in because you don't want to put your hands in. Yep. And it's like, okay. And I did. And then you're just like, this sucks, but I got through it. What else can we do? It's just the small wins and having a consistent routine that and I say this a lot, like, part of having and being on track is falling off track.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of it. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're all human, but it's holding yourself accountable after a week or 2 weeks and being like, shit, man, I'm fucking up. Like, I need to kind of get my ass back in gear so that I know what the hell we can do. Like, I know the feeling of being on point is, and this is not it. Yeah. And that's all part of the process.
And I think humility is an underrated characteristic. Like, my life right now is pretty fucking comfortable. So, like, I want to find things that I'm bad at.
Yeah.
I want to do things that I know I'm a beginner at. Like, there's nothing better. I still remember the first time, and this is pre-tearing my Achilles, like going to jiu-jitsu and just getting murdered, choked out. And that feeling when you leave and you're like, I'm the worst one in the class. And just like that humility, right? Just like feeling like, okay, like I'm not the boss here.
Without a doubt. I think like going through hard stuff like that and being able to take a step back and know that you're not good at this, but you're going to continue to strive towards that. Yep. like overnight success, I don't know what overnight success is. There's people that do get it, but I can probably guarantee you that the feeling that you get when you've grinded for 10, 15 years, create a business like you have, that has now, like, it's the feeling that you get to look back on how far and how hard you grinded is much better than flipping a switch. And
Of course.
and that gratification is like, that's what you do it for. And you've only, I'm sure, I know myself, like, I've only done it because I've failed so much, and you just like are able to, instead of quitting, you're just able to kind of just like keep going towards whatever goal that is, like, and shoot, how many people on the way, like, get in your ear about like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, what are you creating these content, like all this content for? Like, what are you doing it for? Like
Why?
why? Like, or like you're being weird. Like, that is going to happen 100%. People are not going to jump on the, wave with you until you get through it. And it's like, you're successful. And then they're like, oh yeah, I supported them. And at the end of the day, like, you can't get mad at other people for not seeing your vision, because the vision is yours. So, like, at the end of the day, like, pay them no mind. Just keep going and keep grinding and keep consistent. Like, being consistent is so much more important than like anything. Like, as long as you get up every day and just like, you can take a sidestep, and you can also take
You'll most likely be forced to take a sidestep at some point.
100%. And like, even when you take steps back, it's like, as long as you get on the bike again and just say, all right, let's go. I'm just going to keep trucking through this, because when the most turmoil happens and you get through it, like, on the other side is that, in my own personal experience, has been the most personal growth.
Hard times make hard people, right? And right now, we are in the softest generation of all time. And I don't care if I'm in my own world and I'm thinking wrong here, but at the end of the day, there's more people that can eat, that can provide for their family. There's more opportunity out in the world than ever before. And, I think that if there's anything that you can learn from our generation, from the next generation, is the fact that we just need to be tougher, and we need to be okay with not being the best at it and not having instant gratification. And, thinking about all this, is there any questions that you have for me?
15 years in the game, is that right?
Probably longer, but yeah, I started probably when I was 17.
What keeps you motivated? Like, for me, it was like the first, second, third generation thing. What keeps you inspired to continue to grow your business and continue to offer things like this podcast and, remix, like you explained to me before, like all those things? What is it that gives you the gratification to keep growing as well?
Yeah, I think the first thing to bring up is that, like, most successful entrepreneurs don't really give a shit about the money. Like, do I love nice cars and having a nice house, being able to sit in our lawn like this? Of course, but at the end of the day, the thing that motivates me the most is never the money. It's always the fact that I knew deep down that I was going to be successful. I wasn't the smartest kid like you. I didn't get into UConn. I had to literally beg to get in because I was embarrassed that I didn't apply anywhere else besides UConn, and they turned me down. And, for me, the part that keeps motivating me is like, how do I keep challenging myself? How do I continue to focus on being better? Because I know that if I focus on being successful, the money will come. Like, I'm in a position now where I'm confident that as long as I stay the course and I'm consistent, that I will be able to provide for my family. But for me, the part that keeps motivating me is like, what am I going to do differently today? What am I going to be a newbie at? What am I going to do to make sure Junk Luckers is around way after I die? And I'm constantly pushing myself to think about what I'm gonna do differently. And I could go on and on about the mini Murph that we're gonna have in the facility that is gonna look similar to a transfer station that's gonna be able to sort through all items so we can fulfill our mission of keeping items out of the landfill. But the important part is not what I'm gonna do, it's why I'm gonna do it. And as long as I understand the why, I know that I'll keep grinding and I'll keep hammering at my craft to make sure that that sword is like the samurai sword, right?
It's unbelievable.
If you could have a billboard anywhere in the world, courtesy of Lug Life, we'll pay for it, we'll put it anywhere you want, what would it say and why?
It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. It matters how many times you're going to get up. And the reason being is life throws crazy things at you. Being just human, crazy stuff's going to happen, like I said. But if you're able to look through it all and find a lesson in each and every single one of them and add that to your arsenal to make you better, that's going to make you successful.
Amazing. And where would you put it?
I would have to stay in CT, man.
Oh, I can't wait to see it on 95.
Let's go.
If people want to find you, what's the best way to reach out to you, to find you on social media?
Yeah, man. So you can just follow me on my my Instagram page. It's at Matty Ricks. Anybody, if I can help you in any single way, honestly, whether that be with, you need anything, it doesn't have to be related to hair or anything like that. Shoot me a DM. I'm just a normal person, obviously, like Zach, and I'm just looking to help people. And that's it.
Amazing. So now we're going to go over to the ice barrel and dump in 100 pound plus of ice. That wraps up episode 14 with my good friend, Matt Riccio. Be sure to follow him on Instagram. Like, subscribe, comment. Don't just watch us on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube, please. Everyone's watched us on Spotify. It's great. I love it. But I also think YouTube, the algorithm bullshit that I don't understand, that Roger keeps explaining to me, is important. So, that wraps up episode 14. We love you guys, and thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me on, man. It was an honor, and obviously make sure that you subscribe to this channel. A bunch of unbelievable free knowledge, and the people that they interview are super inspiring. So if you haven't already followed, you're missing out. And again, thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Let's get cold as shit and prove to everyone that we are actually psychopaths.
Let's get it.
You're the man. That was fucking awesome.
Awesome.
As you can see, it's cold as fucking shit. We put in around 100 pounds of ice. I'm also releasing some of the water on the bottom, because the key is to feel the maximum coldness is when you submerge yourself. You don't want the ice to go over the top, because in my mind that's cheating. So what we're about to do is we're gonna take turns to do about 60 to 90 seconds each. If you've never done this before, just start with 10 seconds in a shower. That's always my recommendation to everyone is don't overthink it. You don't have to do the most extreme to get the benefits of it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to shock our nervous system. We're trying to shock our metabolism, our immune system, and ultimately, it's gonna help everything. We're gonna feel like we just got a jolt of energy even though we've been grinding all day. So I'm gonna let Mr. Riccio go first so he gets the clean water. Right here, we're using something called an ice barrel. You don't even need this. You could go with like a water trough. You could go with, I've seen a lot of people use deep freezers. Yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're looking to get somewhere around 35 degrees, and you're just trying to get yourself acclimated to, it's all about breathing, right? So what you're gonna see is he's gonna be focusing on his breath. He's gonna be focusing on his breath work, and we'll go from there. Are the microphones still on, Russ? What are you focusing on right now?
Right now, just staying nice and calm, breathing.
Focusing on being present. Right now, his mind is probably trying to force him to think about, why am I doing this? He already told us he has a 1:30 meeting. We're going to shoot another podcast, but the most important thing that you could see is he's trying to focus on being present, being aware. It's uncomfortable as fuck. Doesn't matter how many times you've done this in your life.
Without a doubt. Yeah, super uncomfortable, but that's the whole plan. Just to be super uncomfortable and get comfortable with that feeling.
Awesome. He is halfway done. He's done about 45 seconds already. We're gonna go for a minute and a half each. He didn't even warm up. Normally I just put half my body in and then I slowly make my way down.
Just a quick dump job. You know, you gotta get it in. Just get it right in. Maybe bite a couple. Maybe that.
And you know, for someone that's never done this before, what should they be focusing on getting in here?
Just super breathing, nice and slow. Focus on the breath. That's what it's all about.
Love it. Awesome job. You have been in there for officially a minute and a half. So whenever you want to make your way out, switch.
Lug Life, baby.
Ice in it?
Right there, put that ice in it. So.
You gotta love it, though.
I do. I love being
Think
excited.
about it. Like, how good you feel.
You want to put it in?
Yeah, put it in. Watch how crazy I am as a human being.
Let me do it while you film it.
And you can grab the microphone if you want. Yeah. Pass him the mic. So right now it's what? It's about 35 degrees in here. And we're doing 90 seconds each. Sometimes I'm a maniac. I'll do half my body for about 2 minutes. Then I'll kneel in it for about 2 minutes. Then I'll do this for 2 minutes. But ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how long you do it. It's just doing it, man.
100%. I think that's the biggest thing, just getting it in and, you know, being able to just be uncomfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and my favorite thing is to put randos who've never done this before in it, because I think everyone just looks at me like, you're fucking crazy that you're actually doing this, but ultimately everyone can do this. I truly believe you cannot do a minute and a half your first fucking time without even warming up. We're not even doing breath work. I would not recommend that. But ultimately at the end of the day, like, the whole point of this is to show how much tougher you actually are than you believe. And life is gonna throw obstacles. If there's anything you've learned from listening to Riccio, it's like, shit's gonna happen completely outside of your control. And it's not about what happens, right? Because that's not in your control. What's in your control is your emotions. And how you handle that is really the important lesson here. What are we at?
You got about...
I gotta try this next time.
What?
I gotta try that next time.
You gotta close out the podcast. That's what you gotta
That's a
do.
good idea. That wraps up episode 14 of the Lug Life podcast. Thank you so much, Matt Riccio. Make sure you follow him, Matty Ricks, on social media. Also, I'm going to shout out the plug, Rise of Hair on Instagram. And, you know, we love you guys. We're doing this. If it changes 1 or 2 people's lives, then it's totally worth it for us.
100%. Thanks for having me on.